Hi, welcome to Marriage Minutes at His Pace. No, I always say that wrong. Yes, that's right. Marriage Minutes at His Pace. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that is interesting to me. And I brought it up because I have been revisiting the book of Genesis. And in the book of Genesis, it just talks a lot about, like, I am amazed that the Bible does such a great job at highlighting the flaws of its heroes. Like, I'm amazed at that. It's like, wow, it does give you hope, but it also is like, wow, God, like, wow. And I know the reason why God does that. I'll get to that later. The topic is not that. The topic is there are so many stories, so many people, so many Bible characters, however you want to look at it in the Bible, that are siblings. And I want to just rest on the fact of discussing. Now, of course, disclaimer, I'm the only child that I know about, so I really don't have any firsthand knowledge on this. But it just piqued my interest in thinking about like Cain and Abel and Jacob and Esau and um did I say that right? Yeah, Jacob and Esau. Yes, I was about to get Isaac. I don't know why I get Isaac and Jacob messed up all the time. Isaac was their daddy. Jacob and Esau. And then Abraham's children. You know, Abraham had Jacob, but I mean Abraham had Isaac, but he also had so many other children. By Keturah, he had Ishmael, he had like, and the Bible just highlights all the time how these siblings were pitted against one another. Cain killed Abel, right? Jacob stole Esau's birthright. In regard to Jacob, all of his other siblings were sent off. They were blessed, but they were sent off away from Jacob. And I just want to talk about parents and how parents, are responsible, honestly, for setting up this rivalry that we see in the Bible in so many areas. And it just got me to thinking, like, I wonder why Jesus is the only begotten son. But anyway, that's not the topic. The topic is the ownership that parents need to take in regard to sibling rivalry, because the Bible just highlights so much how Jacob was favored and they weren't, and Esau was this, and Jacob was that, and Cain was this, and it seems like it causes so much discord in the family. And so my topic today is I just want to have some understanding of the responsibility and the role that parents play in sibling rivalry, and what can we do as parents, because I mean usually it's in a marital relationship that it's caused. Like, what are the dynamics that we play, or the role that we play in sibling rivalry in marriage, and how can we thwart that so that our children are not dealing with that type of divide and divisiveness throughout their lives? Okay, that means you're supposed to talk.
I think it's hard because I mean, we only have one child, but I think it's it's difficult because I think from a personality standpoint, there's always going to be a child that's similar to one particular parent, and so that draw or that that grab towards favoritism is because you recognize some traits within that particular child.
Mm.
And so I think, you almost have to be you have to be super intentional not to show favoritism. And I think it's very hard when you gravitate to a child that's like you. And so that's the challenge. But I think a lot of times we expect parents to have the right answers, and parents don't. We don't never take and look at our parents' lives from the context in which they lived it. And so as we do that, I think that would provide some answers to understanding maybe why there might have been favoritism. I mean, I know growing up, um, my mom's whole thing was about me being self-reliant and independent, understanding that the world was not in favor of a black man being educated and doing things. And it's until recently that I had I had alt with my mama because I enjoy sports. I played sports all throughout my young life. I played baseball, and so I wasn't top tier baseball, but I was good enough to make teams and to be a starter, second base. And so they got to a point. My mom was like, "Okay, you got to go to work. No more sports in the summer." And it just, that was like, what? But it's not until now that I understood that my mom raised my uncles. And so understanding and viewing their life in relation to sports and what she wanted for her son, not that I couldn't be successful in sports, but for her, the transition was, I've seen this movie, and I may be totally off. I'm just superimposing what I thought. Never had this dialogue with my mom, but her thought was like, no, we're not going down this road. I've seen it before. We're going here, and you're going to do this. And so that alt that I had with my mom killing my baseball career and not playing anymore, but if I don't ever think about that, then we grow up with certain aspects or certain uh, ideology that's counterproductive to who they really were and what their intentions were. And so I think a lot of times sibling rivalry, we have to understand what the parents' intentions are, or what do they see in terms of the future for that particular child. And maybe there's certain ways that that child is bent, that they may need a certain discipline or a certain love or a certain whatever to propel them to have the life that they're supposed to have. I think a lot of times that dialogue is not had, and that dialogue is not discussed to map out the plan that they have for their child.
So I hear you saying that it ends up being easier to coexist or to parent a person or a child that's like you. And so without being intentional, you will be drawn to, or it's easier because you're like that. So let's go back to the Bible. So with Jacob and Esau, right? Esau was a red man and he was a hunter. Mm-hmm. And Abraham liked that. I'm sorry. Isaac liked that because he was that way as well, or wanted, was Isaac a calm man? I can't remember. Now I'm getting all my stories mixed up. But anyway, he liked that. And so he was drawn to Esau in that way. And Jacob was a reserved, kind of sitting back kind of guy. He was a trickster, but the reason why Rebecca kind of liked him was because he stayed around the tent. He was a mama's boy, basically. Yeah. And so she catered more to him. So it sounds like you're saying because it was easier, that's what their interest, they had similar interests and likes, that she was drawn to him, and vice versa. So you have to be intentional as a parent. This is about parenting in marriage, right? Because it causes discord all the time. I'll tell you this, we only have one child, but I see so much of how she acts and responds. It's like her dad, right? And so I have to, and sometimes that rubs me the wrong way, because I'm like, that's not the way I would handle it. That's not the way I want you to handle it. But in a lot of instances, it's the way he wants her to handle it, or it might be the way he handles it. And I have to learn how to not just parent her when it's fun, not just parent her when it's easy, not just parent her when I understand the path because I've been there, but to parent her through, and know that just because she makes decisions and choices that don't necessarily line up with what I want, that does not mean that she is not going to be successful or that she's not going to do things her way. And I think when you got 2 or 3 or 4 children in the mix, you have to be that much more intentional. The Bible talks about children being a blessing, but I think sometimes because we do what's easiest for us, we set up this sibling rivalry, and then children become a curse. So what do you want your children to be? Do you want them to stay the blessing that we know they are, or do you want them to exist as a curse? And sibling rivalry is the butting of heads between 2 children, and it's really the fighting for position for your love. They are fighting for your love. They're fighting for your love. Jacob did whatever he did to get his mother's approval, to not be rejected. Esau did whatever he did to get his father's approval and not get rejected. We spend our lifetimes trying to please and trying to do that for our parents, but we set up this divide in children, and then we go on to glory and they're still left with this mess. And generations are impacted by it. So parents, stop taking it lightly. Stop taking it, oh, that's my child and that's yours. That's not funny. That's not funny, because you're setting up your children to handle and manage stuff that they can't manage on their own. And you're gone on to glory, singing hallelujah dances with Jesus. And they're stuck down here trying to figure it all out. I think it's a parent's responsibility. Parents have the ability to erase sibling rivalry, not the siblings.
And I think the thing, just to close, is we have to speak to that which we know. And so my sister and I are 9 years apart. And so growing up, I was the favorite. I was the only child, but I was the favorite amongst aunts and uncles. I was that generational kid where everybody like Mark, Mark, Mark. And then my sister came along. And so there was like all the attention went from Mark to, oh, there's Monica, there's my sister. And so if you don't have that dialogue with your child, because I think it's intentional for parents to learn how to balance that. So now the focus is off. And it's subtle, but I think if we don't have those conversations with our children and we don't notice things like that, the enemy can pick that and can use that to continually attack our children to the point where they become resentful, or they do anything to gain attention. And that's all it's about, is getting attention, like Rhonda said. But if we don't address that and we don't pay attention to if we don't find a balance between our 2 kids or our 3 kids. I mean, a lot of people don't know I was the middle child, and so I don't know whether that's relevant, but but we're always seeking attention. And so I learned how to exist and try harder, but either your child's going to act out and do more to get your attention, or they're going to pull in and go into a shell and be very reserved and be very within themselves. And that's not productive either. That's not healthy growth. And so parents, we encourage you. We know it's not easy, but God has equipped you. God has allowed you to steward over your children. And so, it's hard. How do you not like something about your child, but you love it about your spouse? I mean, if you really think about that, Aaron acts like me, but it makes my wife upset when she does. But if I do it, oh, I love you, baby. I mean, yeah. See,
like when you do it either.
Yeah. So, but
I got his point.
We love you. We know it's not easy. Be encouraged. You can do it, and we know you will. Be well and be blessed.